Hello, welcome to Homeopathic Services. Most autism treatment, hmm, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Most autism treatments fail because they're wrong. They fail because parents are starting from the wrong assumption. And if you don't catch this early, you will lose years. Years crucial for improvement. And the first mistake I see over and over again is this idea of domino effect. Domino effect is if little Johnny could go to the bathroom, poop, he would feel better. He will not be in pain, abdominal pain generally. If he's not in pain, he won't be cranky. If he's not cranky, he'll be able to communicate. He'll be able to at least be close to one of us. And then with that person, he will be able to communicate. Once he's able to communicate, he's able to relate. Once he can relate, he will be able to speak. And that is, in one way or another, a domino effect. Sorry. A domino effect. This is absolutely wrong. This is a lack of understanding of what autism is. And if anybody is thinking this, anybody in a position of being a therapist, a doctor, a healer, what have you, if anybody presents this to you, it is wrong and you will lose years. Make no mistake about it. You may see from time to time a slight improvement. Don't be happy with that. I will show you, as usual with a case, I will show you in a few minutes what real improvement in autism actually is. It is not difficult to get. It is rare. Because no one has a definition of autism. I keep harping on this, and if you have listened to me before in the past, yes, I repeat myself. But it is important to understand where people start. Many people start with this idea. If we do therapy will teach him what to say, teach him will teach him to write A for apple, and B for bus, and C for cat, and D for dog, and little by little, somehow, you think you're going to develop a language and a handwriting. But that's not what happens. By repetition, the child just repeats and does not understand anything. That's why that's why all children on the spectrum, yes, I make radical statements, all children on the spectrum essentially write the same way. Because it's not really writing. An A is not an A. An A is 3 bars. An E can be a swoosh with a little dash over here that sort of makes an A. They break it down. Every time I talk to parents who are my patients, they get this. They say, yeah, that's exactly what it was. As a parent, you're too close to understand. That's another statement. As a parent, you're too close to really understand. It's too close. As a homeopath, I don't treat my own children. It's too close. You think you understand, but you don't. One mom told me recently, I asked her, what is autism? You've been living with it for many years. What is autism? Oh, autism is many things. No, it is not many things. It can only actually be one thing. Yeah. That one thing I have talked about over and over again is conceptual inability. Now, when you take this path of domino effect or any others I will mention in the upcoming weeks, because I'm going to do a 3 or 4 or 5, possibly 5 uh, uh, episodes or videos on the 5 common mistakes parents make. This is the first one, the domino effect one. If we teach little Johnny A again and B and C, like I just mentioned, somehow we're going to get to something else. But that cannot happen and does not happen. It does not happen once in a blue moon or really, really small improvement. Why? Because it's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. But if we if we understand conceptual inability, now we are able to treat autism, not what we think autism actually is, but we can treat autism really because we can understand autism in all of its symptoms, 150 of them approximately. There's not 2 or 3 symptoms of autism, there's 150 of them. And once we can find a remedy that is fine-tuned to these symptomatology. Fine-tuned to the symptomatology. A kid who always wants to go out, for example, where all the doors and windows have locks, the child always wants to go out, is a child who's going to need a different remedy from a child who does not want to go out, stays on the couch or in his room in a corner. But ask yourself, is the treatment you are seeking now, you are giving to little Johnny, does it make that slight difference? Does it make that difference next to the other kid who wants to leave the house all the time? Does it make the difference of little Johnny spinning the wheels of a toy truck in his room? Is that little difference with the little Johnny, another one, who doesn't eat his food at all? Does it make that difference? Is that taken into consideration? Are these little details taken into consideration? I very much doubt it. And that's why they don't improve. That's why they cannot improve. They're not getting proper treatment. The treatment is completely wrong. It doesn't make these fine differences. But the beauty of homeopathy now, with these new 350 remedies and 50 more coming, it's not that we have to try all 350 plus 50, 400 different remedies for little Johnny. It's that we're so much more accurate that it's going to go much, much, much faster to find something that is right on, that improves little Johnny according to conceptual inability. You see? Is little Johnny improving according to the improvement in conceptual inability? Targeted. conceptual inability? Or is little Johnny improving only because time, maybe a bit of an understanding here that he needs to put shoes on in the morning before going to the bus? When the child improves according to conceptual inability, then he starts to eat properly, not just one food. He gets ready for school. He brushes his teeth. It's no longer a struggle to just brush teeth. He prepares his bag, he gets ready, he gets dressed by himself. That's something that is huge. Why is it huge? Although it's something very minor, very basic. He can sit for much longer for the homework, not 1 minute. He can eat at the table, not chasing him with a spoon to try to feed him, running after him across the living room while he's watching something on the tablet. That no longer happens. Why it happens? Because conceptual inability is only turned to conceptual ability. And when you have that, then enormous improvement across the board happen. It can only be across the board. If it happens in a little bit here, a little bit there, that's not valid. That's luck. That's not treatment. Let me give you the last follow-up of a case that is moving off the spectrum, probably in the next off the spectrum, officially. Within the next 6 months, this child will not be on the spectrum anymore. This is about 1.5 years. This child started with the tone feeling monotonous, tone of voice. He had only single words or 2 words, so we were not at 0 with spontaneous speech. In terms of interaction, he observed kids. He did not join. And in terms of eye contact, he totally avoids sight with people he does not know. He looks down. But with the family, he had eye contact. And he's going to be 17. So we started with very low eye contact. Interaction was very minor, some. It's not a 0, in terms of eye contact, spontaneous interaction and spontaneous speech. It was not like that. I've seen many, and I've presented many of those cases. There was something there. Here's what it is now. Okay. And what's a winning policy, if you will? Perseverance. Perseverance. Perseverance wins everything. I stayed 30 years on what is autism. 30 years? Finally got it. Conceptual inability. It was perseverance. Perseverance got me to the point where all kids on the spectrum, in my view, should be completely, should be diagnosed off the spectrum at some point. That's what it is. It's possible. That's where all my kids are going. Nearly all my kids. So we're spreading follow-ups now to every 2 months. And in the last 2 months, mom says he has very noticeably improved in memory, because when conceptual inability turns to conceptual ability, memory is there. It's just that it didn't have the ability, but it's there. There's nothing wrong. So memory is better, understanding is better. Or understanding, I should say, understanding is better, memory is better. The two go together. If your child doesn't remember, it just means he didn't understand. He's taking, get this, well, so he's 17, nearly done with high school. He's taking handwritten notes. This is a kid who could barely write, or he had this autism handwriting, I call it. When it comes to numbers, he's excellent, no problem there. Sometimes he needs help, like all kids. I mean, what kid doesn't need help? I need all the help I can get. I'm 66 years old. I mean, come on. He needs help, but first he said, "Let me try." He says, "Let me try first." Speech is nearly normal, but it continues to improve. He knows what he's saying, no longer reflex responses. He keeps improving. Time span also increases in terms of how long he can sit at his desk and do his homework. This is an important year. He does not get distracted. He had to write something about 1920s. 1920 to 1929. And he gets it. The entertainment, the prohibition, eventually the Great Depression. He gets it. He understands. He understands the concept. See, it's a personal conceptual inability, autism. But when everything returns, you can understand other concepts outside of yourself. You understand, just like she says. He understands, he has better memory, automatic. See? The two, you cannot differentiate between the two. It's not like your child is going to get greater memory and no understanding. No, it's tied to understanding, period. He gets it. You see? He gets the 1920s. He understands. He can talk about it. He can have a conversation. Now we got this with one of these new remedies. They're not the only ones. Other remedies I've used for the last 30 years also help, work. But that's what I'm looking for. That is so important. Do not be pleased with little improvement. Your child should improve in big ways. In big ways, it may take a long time because we don't realize how deep this problem actually is. But simply by turning conceptual inability into conceptual ability, then the improvements are broad. They may take a long time because there's so much that they're missing. But the improvement is broad. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for broad, across the board improvement. Eye contact, spontaneous interaction, spontaneous speech, that's the basic. But it should be seen across the board, such as for a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, get ready by himself, eat his breakfast, get ready by himself, and take mom's hand and or dad's hand and go to the bus and not have a problem on the bus. Understanding that I'm going to school to learn something. Right. So, first mistake, do not believe in the domino effect that if this happens, somehow all of this is going to follow. Not going to happen because autism is conceptual inability. So you're not going to move from one thing to another just miraculously like that unless you have homeopathic treatment. I guarantee off the spectrum. Thank you so very much for listening. The website is homeopathicservices.com. Send me an email from there if you wish. I've written 3 books. Go back to the other videos. They tell you about them. Try not to call. Send an email because I still have phone issues. Although this may be solved, the entire thing may be solved this week, this coming week. That would be a small a small miracle in itself. Thank you so very much for listening. Again, homeopathicservices.com will give you a lot of information and a way to get in touch. I appreciate you listening. I'll see you next week. Mm-hmm.